Okay, Megan, I know all of your customers get it right on the first try.
Sure.
And let's assume we never have to be iterative or be interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary, but let's assume that we always have room for improvement no matter what we're designing. Digital experiences, service environments, whatever it might be. There's got to be easy ways to get feedback, and one of the ways we've been talking about is Rosebud Thorn. But for those that are less familiar, we should probably introduce what actually Rosebud Thorn is and why we even use it.
Absolutely. So Rosebud Thorn is a great structured responding or structured thinking method that allows us to collect feedback in 3 different distinct buckets.
Okay.
The first bucket are our roses.
Okay.
And those are things that we see or that have happened or that we can acknowledge are good.
Okay, now we have to pause here because red, as we know, in most sort of design languages means stop or danger or hot. But in Rosebud Thorn, red or some degree of red introduced pigment means positive.
Sure, absolutely. We are in this particular case thinking about a rose itself, and so the rose part of the rose is the good part of the flower.
Okay, good. So red means good in this very specific
Red
example.
or pink, for example, could mean good.
Okay, got it. Red means good. We're there. Okay, now what are some of the other colors we're seeing?
So we're also seeing green here, and green represents a bud or a potential opportunity, right? So maybe as I listen to a piece of research or I see something in a design, it gives me that spark or inspires me to say, ooh, that makes me think of something, or that makes me think of an idea, or that makes me think of an opportunity we could take on.
Okay.
That's where I want to record those buds, those potential opportunity spaces.
Okay, great. Now we also have blue, which is not a common theme, I would say, in the stoplight metrics that we're also used to adopting.
Right, exactly. So let's think about what other components exist of a rose, and there are, of course, thorns.
Okay.
And so those represent the weaknesses or the things that are bad, or maybe those like, ouch, points of an idea.
Okay, so maybe the association is that makes us sad.
Sure.
Okay, so just to recap, speaking through the metaphor of a rose, right? Red means the bloom and things we're most excited about. Normally, I would think about as the areas that I want to invest the least as those that I am overlaying or reacting with the red color. Is that the right way to think about it?
You could think about it that way. It could be the things that we're already doing well, and maybe we don't need to spend a ton of time fixing, changing, solving for, because we've got it.
Or maybe to your point, actually now that I'm hearing the intuition in your voice, it's actually things we want to amplify and expand, right? Okay, so good. Red means areas that we're really excited about and maybe are less on fire than other areas, not to mix our color metaphors. Or in the other case, they're actually places that we're really differentiating ourselves in the market and we really need to expand or control.
Right.
Green, the way I heard you describe it, is really all around this idea of, hey, nascent, early signals that tell us we're moving in the right direction, but need to be cultivated or nurtured in some capacity in order to realize our potential. Still good?
It could become a rose, or if we don't nurture it, it could kind of die off and go away.
Okay, so this is how we get into the blue or sort of the thorns, which is areas that either externally we've heard validation or our intuition is telling us we really need to focus on because it's just not settling with maybe the other components this design is for.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's go ahead and jump over to our example here we have in the corner. And this is just yet one of many examples. We happen to have pulled this from the Stripe website. So, aside from them having world domination and building the back-end payment infrastructure of the world, maybe there's still areas for them to improve because good can always be better and we can always improve out of maybe some of those blue or thorns you have. So now I'm looking at this exercise and I see red Post-its and blue Post-it notes and green Post-its. How did I come to get some degree or sampling of Post-its on this? Did I send out the link to everybody? Did I give everyone my Miro board? Did I work independently and then come together? Was it a facilitated conversation? How do we gather these various kind of color-coded feedback points?
So there are lots of different ways to get feedback on something, an idea or a real design like we have in this particular case. The wonderful thing about Miro is that I could put an image of a design like we have here up on a Miro board, give people the responding categories and ask them to do this asynchronously, right?
Oh, I see.
We could say, hey, could you take a look at my designs and go in here and respond to them in this way using this sort of structured rose, thorn, bud responding type.
Gotcha.
Now we could also do this together in a workshop. We could have done this, I could have presented these designs and then given times for the people who are in the presentation to sit and respond a little bit after the presentation while we're all in the room together. We might then talk them through. So this is really a method that works well asynchronously, synchronously, whatever format we're using.
I see. Okay, let me ask you one tough question before we let everyone go. So there's gonna be lots of red, lots of blue, lots of green on everything, but inherently it's sort of subjective, and at least from my point of view. So even though bias is not a bad thing, it is the bias that I have. How do you start to synthesize and process this? Do you count the number of reds? Do you look at it like a heat map and see if there's directional kind of rainbow colors in one place or another? In this case, that could be a little confusing. How do you start to put emphasis or take away what the actionable steps are?
So the roses, buds, and thorns are just a way to help people sort of structure the way that they respond to you.
Okay.
They're not necessarily all the roses are not all going to be really, really awesome things about your design, right? All the buds are not going to be all the opportunities you have to capitalize on. I often tell groups when we're working with this activity that one person's rose could be someone else's thorn. So when we're synthesizing, right, just as we've synthesized in other ways, when we affinity map or something like that, we're really trying to understand the meaning that people have put on their Post-it notes here, and kind of clustering those by meaning. And that way we start to lose just a little bit of the heat map quality of this, and we're really trying to look at what did this person mean when they wrote this Post-it note, and clustering by that.
Yeah, really well said. I mean, just to extend upon that, the other use case I've had, in addition to sort of reflecting on this through an affinity or clustering exercise, is to see if the same roses, buds, and thorns are the same by persona or population or over a different time wave, right? So the idea of what people were really positive and supportive of around anything from tax structure to education to what was on the menu might evolve over time based on awareness to dietary trends, or, you know, might in favor or lack of favor for a particular politician. Right way to think about it?
Right. Once we come down here and create our affinity map, just like with any affinity map, there's going to be lots of different lenses through which we can look at that, right? And so we're going to map based on what we need that map to be to work for our designs or whatever stage we're at with this design process. So if we bring all of our Post-it notes down here and we see that maybe there is one cluster of ideas that are all pink, and maybe we know that all of those pink ideas came from one department, it might make us think, oh, this was really meaningful for this department, or this really stood out for this department, or it's really important for us to understand that this department sees a lot of value in this thing, right? And so when we are able to synthesize and come back and look at the map that we've created, then we can layer on top all of those kind of takeaways that are important emotionally in this case for us to have.
Well said, Megan. Well, as Megan already highlighted, there's a simple 3-step process to make this happen together. The first is find the object that you ultimately want to respond to, whether that's as formal as a screen grab of a website or it's something much more pieced together or hand-drawn. Understand and give an objective amount of space to everyone who's participating in order to label their subjective or respective opinions in and around this idea of Rosebud Thorn. And as Megan well articulated, don't forget about the clustering or the affinity mapping experience, which you can hear more about in some of the other videos we've posted. Well, thanks as always, Megan, for being our guide. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, looking forward to your feedback, and please, please, please do share what experiences or opportunities you've applied this to so that we understand how to make this template even better. Have a great day.